All right, Tuesday's election is all about the Electoral College. It's a numbers game to see who can reach the magic number of 270 electoral votes to win. Take a look at this map. This is the Real Clear Politics map. If you go on their website, it shows, according to them, Biden, they think, has 232 electoral votes, and Trump is at 125. That leaves 181 toss-up electoral votes, which Trump would need to win a large chunk of to win a second term. So today, we are going to break down the math and break down the toss-up states one by one to find out what the paths to victory are. With us now to help this, break us all down, the president and founder of Real Clear Politics, Tom Bevan, and the Washington bureau chief, Carl Cannon. Gentlemen, you are two of the brightest guys in this business. Let's go state by state and start breaking this down, shall we?
Hi, Tom. Hi, Carl. Okay, let's start with the great state of Texas. Yes, it has 38 electoral votes. Trump won there in 2016 by over 9 points with over 807,000 votes. The RCP average you guys have is Trump plus 2.6% as of last night. So, Tom, is Texas going to go blue like they keep trying to say every single cycle?
Not this year.
Yeah.
No, look, it's going to be closer than it was in 2016, and there's certainly demographic changes that are taking place in Texas that will make it, a blue state at some point in the future. But I don't think it's going to be this cycle.
Okay, I agree. We started easy. We're going to put Texas in the solid Republican bloc. And Carl, I want to move on to Florida. It's always
you're going to give me the hard ones.
Oh, come on. Well, Tom paid us off. That's how it works. Florida, as we all know, has 29 electoral votes. Trump won there in 2016 by 1.2% and a total of 113,000 votes. You guys have Trump and Biden in a dead heat as of last night. All right, Carl, are we putting Trump back in the red?
Marco Rubio dragged Trump across the finish line, Sean. I'm not sure why he wanted to, but he did. This year, I suspect Mike Bloomberg's $100 million will drag Joe Biden across the finish line first.
I get the point on the money. I think the ground game is going to carry it over. You've seen not just the presidential, but the gubernatorial race. It wouldn't shock me, but I think right now, my book, I'm putting that one in the Trump column for now. I won't be shocked, but I think that the ground game is going to make the difference there. So,
Can I chime in real quick?
Of course.
So Trump overperformed his polls in 2016 in Florida by 1 percentage point. I think Biden's leading there now by about 1 percentage point in the latest polls. And the polls were wrong in 2018, both for governor and for Senate. Mm-hmm. They underestimated Republican support there. So for that reason, I think Trump's going to overperform in Florida on Election Day. I think he's going to win it, but it's going to be very close.
I agree. For that, exactly that. I don't think it's going to be big, but I think he's going to have the edge.
Well, they were duking it out today in Florida, so there you go. Okay, on to Ohio. With 18 electoral votes, Trump won by 8.1% and 445,000 votes in 2016. The RCP average has Trump ahead by just over half a percentage point. Okay, Carl, what do you think about Ohio?
We'll give you another easy one.
We'll give you an easy one.
Yeah. Look, as Sean knows from his time in Republican politics, no Republican has ever been elected president without carrying Ohio. Mm-hmm. And since I'm a journalist, I want the thing to go on for days. It'd be if Biden carries it, it's over. So I'll give that to Trump. It's actually a coin flip.
I was actually in Ohio last night. They feel really confident. The Biden campaign has moved their resources out, as has the Trump campaign. They've sent their top guy, Bob Paduchik, to Pennsylvania. I think that's a sign they feel really good about that.
Sean, that happened 4 years ago. The same dynamic. Yeah. The Hillary Clinton pulled out. That's when I knew.
I think it's interesting that they pulled out of there and they're playing in Georgia. But anyway, all right, Tom, we're going to switch over to North Carolina for you. 15 electoral votes at stake there. Trump won by 3.7% with a total of 173,000 votes in 2016. Interestingly, I knew we were going to win last time when we pulled out North Carolina. We were supposed to lose by. You guys have that as of last night. Biden slightly ahead at 0.7 in the RCP average. Where do you think North Carolina goes?
I mean, this is a tough one. I mean, I really do think this is, in the Senate race too. Cal Cunningham, even despite being in a scandal over an extramarital affair, is still leading in that race. Tom Tillis is really struggling. Look, Trump overperformed the final polls in North Carolina by 2.5 points. So once again, I think This one's really, really close. And if Trump doesn't win this one, I think he's going to lose the election. So I think Trump's probably going to eke this one out as well.
I'll give 100% on that, because I think I said that to Ronna McDaniel. If he doesn't pull that out on election night, then that's when you know it's over. I just don't see him having a ton of pass if you can't carry North Carolina. I think you're absolutely right. Let's move to just down a little south and wrap up the states that pretty much Trump has to carry. And I think all of the ones that we mentioned are ones that he has to. So let's talk about Georgia. 16 electoral votes. I cannot believe we're finally actually having to talk about this. It's like Texas in a way. Trump won by 5.1% in 2016 with 212,000 votes to spare. The RCP average there has it a dead heat. And this thing about Georgia, we've been covering 2 Senate races there, a regular in-cycle race with David Perdue, and appointed Senator Kelly Loeffler up against Doug Collins and another Democrat for a special election. Carl, where do you see that one?
Well, he won by 212,000 votes. He is not popular in the Atlanta suburbs with the moderate Republican women he needs. I think the president will probably hold on to Georgia, but I think it'll be a lot closer to a 12,000 vote margin than 200,000.
All right, we'll put that one in. And, we're going to head into the next block, and things are going to change real quick, because these are the ones he has to carry. That puts him at 241 electoral votes to Biden's 232. Up next, we're going to continue to add up the numbers and look at states that are going to be a lot tougher, like Michigan, Pennsylvania, and not, believe it or not, Arizona. Stay with us as we fill out this map. All right, grab your pens again, get your paper back out. We're going to continue to fill this out. Let's break down the following states: Michigan, Pennsylvania, Iowa, Nebraska, and Maine, believe it or not. All right, here we go.
Okay, let's start with Michigan. It has 16 electoral votes. Trump won that state in 2016 with a margin of victory of 10,700 votes, which is less than 1%. The 2020 RCP average, as of last night, has Biden up by 8.6%. Okay, Carl, can the president pull out another upset in Michigan this year?
Well, I don't think so, and I'll tell you why. 4 years ago, Michigan was a place, the polls showed Hillary Clinton comfortably ahead, and the geniuses who ran her campaign, they were looking at the analytics. They're the guys the kind of people who took out Blake Snell out of the game the other day in the World Series when he was pitching like Sandy Koufax, because they had a little computer printout, right? And they didn't campaign up there. They didn't spend money. And Michael Moore told them they were in trouble there. And Sean remembers this. Hillary Clinton had trouble closing the deal in several states where she lost to Bernie Sanders in the primary and Trump won in the primary. And Michigan was one of those places. And they didn't campaign up there. And Trump came in there and stole that state away from him. Biden has not made that mistake. And he has an argument to make there. He was part of the administration. They helped the car industry. And the Democrats are not taking it for granted.
I agree. I hate to say it, but you're absolutely right. And it's outside that margin. I'm going to put Biden in the Michigan column. Sorry, Michigan. Don't get mad at me. It is what it is. All right, Tom, let's move over to Pennsylvania. It has 20 electoral votes. Trump won the state in 2016 with a margin of victory of 44,000 votes, another big landslide, which again is less than 1%. You guys have the RCP average there as of last night at 3.18%. What do you think about Pennsylvania?
So Texas was the easy one. This is probably the hardest one on the entire map.
Yep.
Because, it's a state, the polling there, Trump is certainly behind. But all the reports there, there's this op-ed in the New York Times the other day talking about what it was like on the ground there. I mean, the enthusiasm for Trump, he spent a lot of time there. Biden spent a lot of time there. But the exchange during the last debate where, Trump was all over Biden on fracking, on the oil industry, on energy issues, seems to have actually moved the needle a little bit in Pennsylvania. And so, look, I think the polls are going to have to be wrong in Pennsylvania in Trump's favor. He overperformed there by about 3.5% in 2016. He's going to need at least that this time around, unless we see some tightening here in the final couple of days, and we're still going to probably get some more polls there. But this is going to be it's going to be close again, as close as before. If Trump does not win this state, I think this is the tipping point state. If he wins it, puts him over the top, he wins re-election.
100%.
If he doesn't, he's not going to get it.
100%. I agree with you. Two things about that state. The chairman just said it, and he's absolutely right. I was up there last week. The view on the ground, their voter registration has exceeded their expectations. I think that it's going for Trump. It's going to be close. But here's the thing. If he's not up by 100,000+ votes of in-person voting on election night, that's a big problem. The mail-in votes are going to swamp him. He needs to be 100,000+ up when it comes to that. So I'm going to put Trump in the red there, because you're right. If he doesn't win this, it's game, set, match, right? So I think
I will also tell you, Sean, I talked to someone from the Trump campaign last week, and they said, look, we're going to have to win Pennsylvania, and then we're going to have to win it again, because it'll go into recounts. There's going to be all this controversy over ballots.
Yeah, if you're a lawyer, you just got full employment for the next few months, because everyone is going to sue everyone about those ballots, the mail-in ballots, whether or not the signature was verified, the postmarks, those naked ballots. So I 100% agree.
And the Trump camp actually just sent some lawyers up to Philly this week. So they're prepared for that, I think. Let's go on to Iowa, right? We ready? Has 6 electoral votes. Trump won that state in 2016 with a margin of victory of 147,000 votes, which is about 9.5%. The 2020 RCP average has Biden up, though, by 1.4%. So, Carl, what's happening in Iowa?
Well, Iowa is a great laboratory. Does Donald Trump actually overperform his polls routinely between 1% and 2%?
Yep.
Or does the rules of gravity apply, and an incumbent president who's only up 1% in a state loses that state? Iowa's going to tell us if Donald Trump defies the norms, defies gravity. My guess is that Iowa will go for Biden, but I think it's going to be very close.
Okay, everything I've seen right now, I think you're right. I think Iowa and Pennsylvania are going to tell us a lot. But I think right now, based on how he did last time and how the state has trended, I'm willing to give those 6 electoral votes to him. We've now kind of got 2 states that are actually interesting. If you look at the map, Trump right now, the way that we've portrayed this, and this is my math, not yours. I just want to be clear that no one puts this on Carl and Tom on this, but I've got him at 267 for Trump, 242. This is where it starts to get tricky. We now go to Nebraska. There are 2 states that actually allocate their electoral votes differently than every other state. They award the 2 at-large electoral votes to whichever candidate wins the state, and then award the remaining electoral votes by the winner of the congressional district. In Nebraska, Trump carried all of its congressional districts and obviously the state. However, the 2nd congressional district in Nebraska is considered a toss-up. In 2016, he won that district with a margin of victory of 2,500 votes, which was a whopping 2.2%. Tom, is he going to carry it again?
I don't know. It's going to be very close again. And Trump was just there. It turned out 29,000 people to a rally at the airport in Omaha in like 30-degree weather. I mean, so he is firing up his base. But Omaha is obviously where you have the suburbs. You have most of the liberals in the state live there, and they're spending an inordinate amount of money. So, look, I think it's going to be very, very close. I think the polling suggests that Trump is down there, and he's going to have to close here in the final days. Otherwise, he's going to lose that. And
all right, I'm going to keep that a toss-up for right now.
We're getting close to a situation where he might need those. He might need those last 2 electoral votes from Nebraska and from Maine.
All right.
So what about Maine? Carl, do you think what's happening there for him?
Well, he's not going to be. It's not going to be like it was 4 years ago, but Susan Collins is in trouble there. It's very similar to Nebraska, and Sean can play with the map. You could actually, depending on how the 2nd congressional district goes in Nebraska and how Maine goes, you could end up with a tie.
Yeah. All right. Well, look, for now,
is that where you're taking us, Sean?
Let's do this. I think you're right. Both of those are tough. So I want to wrap up this section and then come back, because we've got some final ones that are really going to come down to the wire: Wisconsin, Nevada, Arizona. So let's come back in a moment and take a look at those states, to your point, and see what the math tells us.
All right, and we're back. Let's continue our state-by-state breakdown, the playoffs with Wisconsin, Minnesota, Nevada, and Arizona.
All right, if you take a look at the map, by the way, we've got Trump at 267 electoral votes. This is my math, not theirs. And we're 3 short of him becoming president for a 2nd term. Biden's sitting at 232 with 39 toss-up electoral votes. Let's start with Wisconsin.
Okay, Wisconsin. It has 10 electoral votes. Trump won that state in 2016 with a margin of victory of almost 23,000 votes, which is less than 1%. The 2020 RCP average has, as of last night, it has Biden up 6.4%. So, Tom, you're kind of close to there. I'm going to go to you on this one. What do you think?
So we've had some crazy polling there. We had a 17-point poll, which nobody thinks Trump's going to lose Wisconsin by 17 points. Then we had another poll that showed at 1 point. But the Marquette University Law School poll came out and had this race at 5 points. 4 years ago, they had Hillary Clinton's lead. Their final poll had it at 6 points. It was 46-40. This year, it's 45-40, 48-43 for Biden. So did they learn lessons from 4 years ago? We're going to find out. I just don't think Trump's seen the closing in Wisconsin that he's seen in places like Pennsylvania and North Carolina, Florida. So I think Biden's going to eke it out in.
No, I hope the polling isn't wrong. You know, Tom and I have a business model based partly on polling.
All right, for fun, just for fun, let's play this out. We'll give Wisconsin to the Biden campaign for now. Let's move just left to Minnesota. It has 10 electoral votes. Trump barely lost the state to Hillary Clinton. The margin of victory was just 45,000 votes, which was a mere 1.5%. The RCP average right now, Carl, has it at 4.7%. They thought that they could have struck gold last time. Is this where they're going to find it this time?
I think that number is going to tighten on Election Day, but as they say in the upper Midwest, as Wisconsin goes, so goes Minnesota. I just made that up.
I was going to say, I was going to fact check you there with Tom. Tom, what do you think?
You know what? Trump was sneaky in Minnesota last time. This time, the Democrats are energized, and they are spending money and effort there. So he's not going to sneak up on them this time. But there has been a pretty significant shift. All the rural parts of the state are going to vote heavy for Trump. The question is, what happens in the suburbs, given what happened in Minneapolis with the protests and the looting and the riots? Does that somehow affect the outcome here and give Trump that extra boost? I suspect he's going to come up just a little bit short.
That's interesting. I've been wondering that. You saw that in Kenosha as well. So I think the question is, do those riots have an effect in the suburbs the way that they kind of did in Kenosha? I frankly think Kenosha happened too early. If this had been a little later, it might have been different. Just for fun, I'm going to shade this as we get into the final. I'm going to shade it lean Democrat. I'm going to shade Wisconsin lean Democrat because I think that's probably a fair way right now, saying it's not that they're out of reach, but I think that they're leaning that way.
Okay, Nevada. The president was there this week. The campaign had been hopeful about it early on in the year. Let's talk about it. Nevada has 6 electoral votes. Trump lost the state to Clinton in 2016, but with a margin of victory of 27,000 votes, which is 2.4%. The 2020 RCP average, as of last night, has Biden up by 4.6%. I'm going to go to you on Tom, on Nevada. What do you think?
You know, the Trump campaign liked the trend that they were seeing in Nevada, and they like the numbers that they're getting with Hispanics. But I just don't know that they're going to have enough. So much of that vote comes out of Clark County, Las Vegas area. The unions are still pretty powerful there. And even though I think they're going to see record turnout in the rural parts of the state, I don't think it's going to be enough to tip the balance for Trump in Nevada.
Look, I think you're absolutely right. Here's where I differ, though. If this had not been COVID, if this had not been all mail-in, the governor there is mailing every person living or dead, moved or not moved. That's where I think the fatal flaw is right now. I think the Trump campaign had a really good shot of this pre-COVID. For now, again, let's shade this one. Lean Democrat. It's not saying it can't pull out, but I just think that the Democrats have done everything they can to stack the deck. Now, this comes to the real prize, my friends, 258 to 267. I think everything, assuming that everything flows the way that we said, everything's coming down to Arizona and its electoral votes, which I cannot believe that we were having this conversation. Trump won the state by a margin of victory of 91,000, which was a mere 3.5%. It wasn't a majority. It was a plurality, right? We had the Libertarian there do very well last time. You guys have Biden up 2.2% in ruby red Arizona. The trend is not good. Tom, what do you think? And Carl, I want you guys both to weigh in quickly.
So the polls are actually showing more closing. That race is actually tighter now. But here's the thing. Arizona is the only battleground state that Trump did not overperform his polls in the final polls in 2016. He was leading by 4. He won it by 3.5. So that has to be a worry for the Trump campaign. They need to be ahead in Arizona on Election Day if they're going to pull this out.
Carl, considering what he just said, if the next couple polls show the race dead even or Trump ahead, will that be good enough?
Democrats every 4 years say they want to carry Arizona. It's harder than it seems, but they've got it together there. You know, the Republicans have this very attractive Senate candidate, Senator McSally. She was the first woman to fly combat in the U.S. military. And so what the Democrats do, they go out and get an astronaut You know, they
Mark Kelly.
One up
yeah.
you.
yeah, I'll trump you. Yeah, I'll one up you. So,
Real quick, I just want to show something really interesting mathematically speaking, because we kept Nebraska 2 and Maine 2 out. Let me just show this for fun math-wise. If the Democrats were to carry Arizona, that gets them to 269. You do, and then suddenly those 2 electoral votes in Maine and Nebraska actually carry this thing to a 269 tie. This is how close this thing is coming down, guys. I think Arizona is going to be huge. If Trump can pull it out, he gets a second term. If he doesn't, I don't see the math. Anyway.
I think that sounds about right, Sean. And let me just say, brace for recounts in multiple states.
Yep.
And then if Trump wins by 270 to 268, brace for another round of faithless electors. Imagine the pressure campaigns that will be put on these folks.
We had a couple of them last time. I agree with you.
Good.
Tom Bevan, Carl Cannon from Real Clear Politics, thank you guys very much. Everyone at home, jump on the map, play for yourself, tell us what you think. I appreciate it.
You just watched Newsmax TV, America's fastest growing cable news channel, now in more than 70 million homes. You can get Newsmax TV on your cable system or check your cable guide. And if your system doesn't carry Newsmax, call them, tell them you want Newsmax TV, because we're real news for real people.